In the heart of the desert night, under a sky full of stars, the disciples found an ancient temple, a place where the wisdom of the past awaited those willing to listen. The disciples walked behind Jesus through the sprawling deserts and hills of Galilee. The sun had set hours ago, and now the cool night air brought a welcome relief from the heat of the day. They were tired, their sandals worn from miles of walking, yet their spirits were uplifted by the presence of their teacher. Stars lit up the dark sky, glittering like scattered pearls across an endless ocean. As they neared the top of a gentle rise, a structure came into view, partially hidden by overgrown fig trees and olive branches. The building was ancient, with thick stone walls that bore carvings weathered by time. The disciples exchanged glances, each wondering what purpose the mysterious structure once served. "Master, what is that place?" asked Peter, his voice filled with awe. Jesus gazed at the temple, a soft smile gracing his face. "This is a place built by those who sought wisdom and wished to preserve it for future generations," he replied. "A sanctuary meant for those willing to listen." The disciples followed Jesus through the arched doorway, stepping into the cool, dark interior. The silence was profound, broken only by the faint sound of their breathing. At the center of the temple, on a stone pedestal covered in dust, lay an ancient leather-bound book, its cover worn and its pages yellowed with age. "What is this book?" asked Thomas, stepping closer, his eyes filled with curiosity and a trace of skepticism. Jesus brushed a hand over the cover, revealing the symbol of a great tree, with roots spreading deep and branches reaching wide. "This is a collection of wisdom," he said, "left behind by those who came before us. It holds their stories, their lessons, and their hopes that those who follow might learn from their journeys." The disciples gathered around the book, their expressions a mix of reverence, curiosity, and doubt. Peter was filled with a childlike excitement, eager to learn what secrets the book held. John looked at the book with a sense of awe, feeling as though it connected him to something far greater than himself. But Thomas, who was known for his questioning nature, furrowed his brow. "Master," he began hesitantly, "how can wisdom written so long ago help us now? Times have changed. Can these stories really hold meaning for us?" Jesus turned to Thomas, his gaze kind and understanding. "Thomas, wisdom is like a river. It flows through generations, carrying with it lessons that nourish the soul. It does not matter when it was written. What matters is whether we are willing to listen." Thomas looked thoughtful, but doubt lingered in his eyes. Jesus sensed his hesitation and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Let me share a story from this book. Perhaps it will help you understand." With a quiet reverence, Jesus opened the book, and the disciples gathered around, their attention fixed on their teacher. Jesus began the story of Eliab, a young man gifted with the skill of building. Eliab was known in his village for his strong hands and his keen eye for design, crafting homes and structures admired by many. But as his reputation grew, so did his pride. Eliab believed that he alone was responsible for his success, that he needed no one else's guidance or wisdom. Eliab's father, a wise man who had lived through years of hardship, often tried to counsel him. "My son," he would say, "a tree that grows tall must first have deep roots. Listen to the wisdom of those who have weathered the storms. They can teach you to stand strong." But Eliab brushed aside his father's words, viewing them as limitations rather than guidance. He thought he could carve his own path without relying on anyone else's experiences. For a time, his confidence brought him success, and his buildings rose tall, admired by all who saw them. But then a drought came and Eliab's foundations began to crack. The soil shifted and his buildings started to crumble. Desperate to save his work, Eliab refused to accept help, believing he could fix it all himself. His pride isolated him, and he pushed away those who tried to advise him, including his own father. In his old age, Eliab lived alone, watching as his life's work turned to ruin. He realized too late the value of humility and the wisdom he had ignored. He died filled with regret, knowing he had lost not only his work but the love and respect of those around him. When Jesus finished Eliab's story, the disciples sat in silence, each moved by the weight of the tale. Peter, always quick to act, felt a pang of recognition, recalling moments when his own pride had prevented him from seeking help. "Master," Peter whispered, his voice tinged with sadness, "do you think Eliab's fate was his own choice? Or was he destined to fall?" Jesus looked at him, his eyes gentle. "Eliab made his choices, Peter. Wisdom waits patiently for those willing to listen. But it does not force itself upon us." The disciples nodded, each sensing the importance of humility and the value of learning from those who had come before. In the days that followed, a tension began to build among the disciples. A decision had to be made about their journey, and each disciple had their own opinion on the matter. Peter, known for his boldness, argued that they should take a direct route, while Thomas voiced concerns about potential dangers, suggesting a more cautious path. Their disagreement escalated, with each disciple taking sides. As tempers flared, words turned sharp, and past grievances surfaced. The normally harmonious group found themselves divided, each convinced that their way was best. Jesus watched silently, his gaze calm yet filled with quiet understanding. After a few moments, he stepped forward and placed a hand on both Peter's and Thomas's shoulders. "Remember Eliab," he said softly. "And remember that wisdom is not only in knowing what is right, but in seeking harmony and humility." Peter and Thomas exchanged a look, their pride melting into shame as they saw the reflection of their own faults in each other. Slowly they extended their hands, apologizing, realizing that wisdom was not just in words but in actions, in the willingness to reconcile. The disciples felt a deep sense of relief and unity, understanding that wisdom was not only a matter of learning but of living with compassion and humility. Later, as they rested beneath the shade of an olive tree, Jesus opened the book again, sharing the story of Miriam, a humble weaver known for her kindness and her tapestries, which seemed to carry an almost mystical beauty. Miriam's mother had taught her the art of weaving, showing her that each thread held meaning and that every piece woven was an offering of love. Miriam listened with an open heart, cherishing her mother's lessons and treating each stitch as a prayer. Through her years of dedication, Miriam's tapestries became renowned, not only for their beauty but for the sense of peace they radiated. People from distant villages came to see her work, marveling at the warmth and joy woven into each thread. As Jesus shared Miriam's story, Mary Magdalene felt a deep connection, understanding the beauty of honoring the past and cherishing the teachings passed down from generation to generation. She saw that wisdom was not only in knowledge but in the spirit of love and devotion that gave life meaning. The disciples felt a renewed sense of peace, realizing that wisdom from the past was a treasure meant to be embraced, not ignored. One evening, as they sat on a hillside overlooking the Sea of Galilee, Jesus shared a parable about a great tree, with roots that reached deep into the earth and branches that stretched toward the heavens. "This tree stands tall because its roots are anchored in the soil of past generations," he explained. "The roots feed the branches, just as the wisdom of those before us nourishes us. Without the past we would have no foundation. We are part of a lineage, a story that stretches back beyond memory." John, gazing out at the sea, felt a newfound respect for the heritage of his faith, for the wisdom passed down through the ages. Each disciple, in their own way, felt a deeper connection to their history, understanding that they were part of a greater story, each of their lives a page in the grand book of humanity. As they journeyed through a small village, they met a poor widow who welcomed them into her modest home. Her life had been filled with hardship, but her heart was resilient, her spirit unbroken. She shared stories of her parents who had taught her patience and hope, even in the face of suffering. Her words held a quiet wisdom, born from a lifetime of facing life's storms with dignity and strength. The disciples listened in awe, humbled by her resilience and her acceptance of life's trials. "Patience," she said, "is the anchor of the soul. It keeps us steady through the storms." Jesus reminded the disciples that every person they met held a story, a piece of wisdom waiting to be discovered. They offered her food and blessings, feeling a profound sense of gratitude for her story. Back at the temple, Jesus opened the ancient book and told his disciples that they, too, were authors of life's wisdom. He spoke of the importance of living with intention, of understanding that their actions would become a legacy for those who came after. Just as those before us wrote their stories, so must you, he said. Your lives will be chapters in the great book of humanity, a light for those yet to come. Write with humility, love, and courage. Each disciple felt a profound sense of responsibility, knowing that their choices, their love, and their wisdom would shape future generations. They left the temple with a renewed sense of purpose, each carrying the weight of their legacy. In the days that followed, the disciples began to see each moment, each decision, as a line in the story they were writing. They sought to live with intention, with compassion, and with a respect for the wisdom they had gained from Jesus, from the ancient book, and from the people they had met along their journey. Peter, once impulsive, found himself considering the consequences of his actions, understanding that his choices would resonate beyond his own life. Thomas, once skeptical, began to listen more openly, feeling a deeper connection to the wisdom of those who came before him. John, ever compassionate, saw that his love was part of the legacy he would leave behind. As dawn broke over the hills, casting golden light across the land, Jesus gathered his disciples for a final message. His voice was soft, yet filled with authority and love. Remember, he said, that wisdom is not just in knowledge but in the willingness to listen, to forgive, to grow. Leave behind your own stories as a gift for others, a light to guide them through their own journeys. The disciples, moved to tears, felt a deep peace settle over them. They understood that true wisdom lay not only in seeking knowledge but in living with love and humility, in honoring the stories of those who came before and in writing their own with courage. With hearts full of gratitude, they left the temple, each carrying a light that would guide them for the rest of their lives. They were ready to live not just as followers but as guardians of wisdom, ready to become part of a legacy that would inspire generations to come. This is end of the story. Comment amen if you believe in Jesus' blessings. Please like this video and subscribe this channel for more Jesus story like this. May the God watch over you.